Let's get a word from Major General Chip Chapman, ex-head of counter-terrorism at the MOD. Good afternoon to you, Chip. Nice to have you with us, as always. I mean, let's just pick up on the back of the Prime Minister speaking there. We're going to amp up security. We'll do more. Of course, we want to see a response to it. Has the PM got it about right, in your view?
Well, I think we need to put some of this into context. So this is quite rare in terms of terrorism. There were no terrorist attacks last year which killed someone. That is irrelevant, though. What we have had since the 7th of October is an absolute proliferation of both extremism, which is manifested in three ways: through referrals to the counter-terrorism internet referral hotline, the CT hotline, counter-terrorism hotline, and also extremism in terms of the number of attacks on both Jews and Muslims. They are both hate crimes and extremism. It is quite rare for it to go into the terrorist space. Would be three worries now. The first one is what we call cascading terrorism. That is that this amplifies other people and they go on to do a similar thing. Yeah. It's almost certain that this is a lone actor event, but that said, in the time before most lone actions, someone close to them either knew about a growing ideological intent or a violent intent, so the police will be looking at that, and those people chose not to repost that. So that is worrying. The second thing is that you can get what we call reciprocal radicalization when these events occur. That's really what happened in 2017 after the Manchester, London and Westminster Bridge attacks, when there was then a right-wing extremist attack. And the third one, which I absolutely agree with what's been said, is we get incident or event blindness. And that's what we saw yesterday with the Palestinians marching. That's absolutely absurd. And I know a lot of people think that you shouldn't caveat free speech, but free speech is a means, it is not an end. And even the hated ECHR Article 10 caveats free speech if it is needed to be done so, either because it's prescribed by law or in the interests of safety, national security, prevention, disorder or crime.
And that, of course, is always the worry about the copycat attacks that you referenced there. Security being amped up in certain areas. We all know, and you know this better than most, Chip, that a determined terrorist, if they are hell-bent on causing carnage, they will. And whilst events are still scarce, there is a sense over the years that they're on the up, if that makes sense.
Well, terrorism events are not. So last year in Europe, there were 5 people killed in terrorism. So 500 million people in Europe, 5 killed. Now, we think they're a lot greater than they are because of 3 things. One's called the dread hazard. We remember past events, and the 2 which link this event is firstly the Manchester attack in 2017 because of the geography. And secondly, the Usman Khan attack at Fishmongers Hall in 2019, where similarly you had someone who had a fake suicide bomb and was neutralized by police. So those are the reasons that we actually, this comes to mind.
Can I just, sorry to interject, Chip, just to qualify perhaps what I was perhaps should have said, is that there is a sense of sympathy within terrorism is up. And I look at the marches. We know that security services have had some incredible successes in stopping them. There is a sense that we are living in more troubled, difficult, uncomfortable and dangerous times. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think that is absolutely fair. The sort of fragmentation of society is there. And after, for example, the 7th of October, we had the first Gaza-related terrorist attack a week after that in Hartlepool. Now, actually, there's not been a terrorist attack related to Gaza since that. As I said, the number of hate crimes and extremism events is absolutely gone up. And what would be worrying, I think, now is that after the 7th of October, for example, you have a number of what we called floating hashtags. So you had things like Hitler was right, death to the Jews, kill Muslims and things like that. Now you're going to get a number of those from both sides, probably from the very extreme left wing, from the Islamist community, and also probably from the extreme right wing. Yeah. That itself can be a catalyst for future action by those who have malevolent intent, and that is worrying for the future.
When it comes to these marches that have taken place, and I think most people will be, slightly, not just angry and incredulous, but, you know, almost in another stratosphere of disbelief to think that anybody would have marched yesterday in Manchester after this had happened. What we hear from the police and we hear from our politicians, Chip, is we urge you not to march. Not you can't march, we urge you not to. What do you suppose is the kind of logistical thinking behind that, rather than the Prime Minister rolling his sleeves up, sounding bloody angry, to put it bluntly, and saying, sorry, you're not going to march today?
Well, I think the Prime Minister's caught between a rock and a hard place. He doesn't want to be seen to be authoritarian. The Home Secretary generally takes the advice of the police on the ground, the Met or GMB or whoever, Greater Manchester Police, or whoever it might be. So he doesn't want to impose a top-down thou shalt not march. He wants to wait for that coming from below, and that's a judgment for the police. Now, again, as I said, this is, at this time, in my mind, it would be this incident blindness because of what has happened in Manchester, completely inappropriate. And at the same time, when we're still waiting for Hamas, an absolutely terrible terrorist organisation, to say if they'll support the proposed plan, when all this would be circumvented potentially for the future if they said, yes, we'll stop the war, we'll disengage, we'll surrender our weapons and let the hostages go.
Yes, well, we live in hope on that. I mean, I don't know where the smart money is in terms of the likelihood of an acknowledgement and an acceptance of that proposal. We will wait and see. Meantime, Chip, it's always great to talk and get your expert view on these things. Thank you, sir. Major General Chip Chapman, ex-head of counter-terrorism at the Ministry of Defence. Thank you to him. Derek says, how many of these ISIS sleeper cells are in our country, just waiting for the call to rise up? Right. I mean, that's it, isn't it? I mean, Chip just statistically gave the fact that there have been fewer terror attacks in, I think he said, in the last year in Europe. And that might be so. What we haven't seen before are the kind of protests that we've encountered, the hatred that we've encountered, the division and the splintering of our society that we've encountered by people who don't have shared cultural values as most people do. And I say that across all faiths, because I think most of us sing from a similar hymn sheet. No one's asking for everybody to sing from the same hymn sheet, not exactly the same, but, you know, certain bullet point lists that we all go, yeah, with that, and that, we all kind of agree with. There has to be something said about a host country. We shouldn't be apologising for that. In fact, there was an interesting video, I don't know if you've seen this, it's a politician online, a local politician who's being, I don't know what the context is, she's giving an interview. I think she's in Falkirk, and she says in the interview, I was born and bred in this country. And then she goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I should not have said that. I'm really sorry. And then she's completely flustered for the rest of the interview. She doesn't know what to do. She's totally lost her direction. And she reiterates, you know, I really shouldn't have said that. And the person, I'm trying to think, it's somebody I know that I think tweeted it to begin with. I'll try and find out who it was. And it was a kind of you know, it's an apology, essentially, for, it was Paul Embry, who we had on the show just this week, actually. Paul was on with us this week. He tweeted it. He says, this is absolutely bizarre. A local councillor tells a TV interviewer that she was born and bred here, then checks herself as if she said something terrible. And then the interviewer weighs in against her for saying it. It's truly it is a really weird clip, by the way. It's a really bizarre clip. And I don't know why the woman is apologising for saying I was born and bred here. But I only mention that on the basis that there is this kind of weird thing that you've got to apologise for your national identity or your nationality or your race or your creed if you happen to be from here. And you don't have to. This is a host country. Most people who come here, whether they're brown, black, white or something in between, know that and join in with that. You shouldn't have to apologise for that.